Thanks, William. I'm standing live in front of St. Vincent Southside where we had a patient that was recently discharged after suffering complications from Hantavirus respiratory syndrome. How's you? Beside her, we have her physician that was in charge of her care, Dr. Dustin Shepard, and he's going to elaborate on hantavirus and its associated complications. Thank you both for joining me this morning.
Pleasure to be here, Henry.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Hajar, tell me a little bit about the symptoms and the pain that you've been experiencing over the last several weeks.
Well, at first it started with a fever, fatigue, and body aches, and initially I thought it was the flu or the cold, and it was very, very painful.
Okay, and when did you actually notice these initial symptoms take place?
It was roughly about 2 months ago. My family doctor said that if the symptoms got worse, to go to the ER. A few days later, it was, I started to feel shortness of breath, and it was an unusual rattling in my lungs as I breathed in and out.
That's very interesting. Dr. Shepard, can you elaborate on this rattling sensation that Ms. Ayu was referencing?
Sure. Her lungs were filling with fluids. It would be similar to drowning with your lungs producing their own water.
Okay. And what exactly is the root cause of this illness?
Well, Henry, it's called the Hantavirus, from which I developed Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome.
From a general public safety perspective, how deadly is this virus, and is this something that we should be concerned about?
Yes, the general public should be very concerned. About 40% of those individuals infected die from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome and its associated complications.
Having said that, what can be done to prevent the spread of this illness, considering that it can be very dangerous for the general public?
Well, the most important thing is to avoid contact with wild and nuisance rodents and their remnants. The virus is typically carried in the feces and is either ingested or inhaled by the human host. And I would have to say, if avoiding these mites and other rodents is not possible, to wear a face mask and gloves, and to make sure that you wash your hands periodically.
One last question. Hajar, bless you in your recovery. And I just have one last question for you. How did you actually contract this illness?
Well, Henry, a few weeks ago, before I started feeling, before I started feeling sick, I was helping an old relative clean out an old barn loft. There was plenty of hay and animal feed to keep the rats happy. I guess I must have inhaled the viral particles as I was sweeping the barn loft.
All right, well, we're going to thank you both, Dr. Shepard and Hajar, for joining me this morning. Back to you, William, in the studio.